Hi, everybody. This is Peter Hernandez, and welcome to The Core Truth. And trust me today, when I say the core truth, we are going to get down to it because we are going to be talking real truth. And today I have Holly Parker, author of Back on the Market and producer of her new movie, which we're going to talk about, called Anxious Nation. And I just want to kind of set the stage for this conversation, Holly, by just letting everybody know I lost a very close friend recently to depression. Somebody that on the surface appeared to be so successful, so together, everything life looked just perfect, only to find out, it wasn't. And 2 weeks ago, this friend of mine committed suicide. And I think this is what we're dealing with right now in our world. A lot of anxiety, a lot of uncertainty. And I think the timing of your movie, which I'm so excited to go see on Friday night, Anxious Nation, that you co-produced with Laura Morton, is so timely, Holly. And thank you for coming on and talking about it, because there is so much life going on out there. It's in the colleges, it's in schools, it's with the kids. It's really in our business. In my position, I get to know what's going on in so many of our agents' lives. And I'm just going to say there's a whole lot of life going on and people don't know how to deal with it. So Holly, I think your mission or your purpose or whatever it is that you wrote and created this book. I just want to thank, your book and the movie that you produced. I just want to thank you so much for it. Because I think it's timely and I think it's so important. So welcome. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And I'm so sorry about your friend. It's heartbreaking. And I think that, we were just discussing, I'm an anxious person. I was an anxious kid. I'm in an anxious business, living in an anxious city. And sometimes all the energy goes into putting on the mask for others. And that takes so much energy to go out there and really put that mask on to be who others need you to be, want you to be, who you need yourself to be. But then when you get home, you got this empty tank of anxiety. And what we like to say is that this is the movement of talking about it, of creating a community, that Anxious Nation, not only a film, but starting a trusted community of people. This is where people go to communicate that you're not alone. Actually, if you really start talking about it, the shame, the cape of shame comes off. And when you start doing that, it actually becomes quite normal. These feelings. How can we not, with what's happening today, with the pandemic in the world, with social media, with our emotions? It's becoming the norm, and people need help and understanding.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Well, to kick us off, Ollie, tell us a little bit about you. For people that don't know you, you're a top real estate broker in New York. You're with Douglas Elliman. I get to work with you, which is so exciting. Tell us a little bit about your career, your situation, and maybe what was the stimulus for producing this movie.
Well, I've been in real estate now for 30 years, and I've been lucky enough to be in the top 10 for the last 15 of that. So about half the time that I've been in real estate. And I would say one of the secrets that I have in being an agent is because I'm a big emotional person, and I can read people's anxiety. And when people buy apartments and sell their homes, they have anxiety. It is death, divorce, and moving. So they are anxious, whether they have anxiety or not in that moment. 99.9 of them are going to have a moment of being anxious. And because I have this, I've struggled with this, I can identify it, and I'm good at helping people through that. And so that's been a right career for me. I got introduced to Laura Morton and always had this idea of writing a book, how life imitates real estate and real estate imitates life when you are back on the market, whether it's a job or when you're recreating your life, when you're pivoting. And of course, the unknown is so anxious. You have so much anxiety in that moment. For me, it was getting divorced and dating as an adult for the first time at 32. And we kind of mapped out fixing your foundation, right? Turning on your lights, staging, all of that, and mapped out what my journey was into putting my life back together. But a lot of that journey was dealing with my anxiety of, oh my God, what am I going to do?
I'm single again, right?
I'm single. This is scary. I'm never going to meet anyone. I'm so lonely. I'm not enough. I'm not enough for myself,
Yeah.
for anyone else. And Laura and I started talking about my anxiety. She's a daughter who stars in the movie, the documentary Anxious Nation, Sevi, who's an incredible child. Now she's a young lady. We've been making this for 4 years. So she's grown up inside of this space and has blossomed into this incredible young woman. But she suffers from anxiety, and so do I. And so when we started talking about it, and Laura, who is one of this country's greatest storytellers, I was cheering her on, going, "Do it, do it, do it, do it!" And so I jumped at the chance to be involved as an executive producer to watch her go.
Wow. Well, it's so funny. I mean, it's not funny, but it's interesting to me how art imitates life. And I think your book as an art form, this movie as an art form, very possibly is even imitating your life in a sense that you're expressing yourself through these things. Now, the book was back on the market. I thought it was so much fun and such a cute title for a book. And I remember when Stephen Kotler showed it to me, I went, wow. I said, that is really, really, really neat. So what was that about it? What were you writing about in that book? If somebody was interested in getting it, what would they find inside the covers of that book?
Well, what I started out doing and what I ended up doing were two different things because Laura was involved. What I wanted to do is just tell the fun story about what is the dance of attraction? What does that look like, right? Because we get clients who had been divorced or widowed, and I wanted to give them the marketing plan of, hey guys, it's not over. Yeah. It's not over. And if you follow these things, right, fix your foundation, get rid of stuff that you no longer need or are serving you, do a stage job, get a paint job, turn on your light, which is connecting to your passion.
Okay. So true.
Manifest what you want. Who is your buyer? How to get them in the door? How to attract? Start taking showings. There's no bad showing. Do your open houses. Network. Get your photos. Your photos the best thing. Wide lenses are the best thing in real estate. Mini lenses are the best thing in dating. Yeah. But it's all the same, right?
Yeah.
How long has this apartment been listed? Hey, this was in contract. What happened?
Oh, yeah, you don't want to be on the market too long. That's right.
Right? How long has this been on the market? And on a first date, within 10 minutes, somebody's asking me, hey, why did you fall out of contract? Why did you get divorced? I'm like, really? Yeah, I'm really going to answer this in the first 10 minutes I'm meeting you. So, but that's the same as a listing, right? Why did this fall out of contract? It's probably something.
What's wrong with this house?
Is it haunted? Do you have ghosts? What's in the basement? What's in the attic?
Right.
So what's in the attic is a lot of anxiety from screwing something up. I got married and I'm not married anymore. I screwed it up. So you got to own it.
Yeah, I mean, but our clients are like that. Even when we're listing their homes, they're so anxious about what their friends are going to think, what their neighbors are going to think. Imagine listing yourself on the market. It's even more anxiety, right? I would think.
Oh my, putting your face up online. And this is, luckily the younger
Judge me. Am I good enough looking for you?
I mean, my God, that was so hard. And thank God that the younger generation doesn't have that hang up.
Yeah.
But I certainly did. And I was like, it's like eBay, put up your old playing cards.
Yeah.
and and you know, and all of a sudden you're with it. So that was just not something I was used to. But luckily got by it. Your photos are your best marketing tool. So
Well, the book was super, super fun, and I think it was kind of tongue in cheek. But the movie's taking a much more serious, I think, shot at this whole anxiety issue. And we are an anxious nation, Holly, very much so. Um, like I said, it's just all around us, friends, family, colleagues, everywhere. And so, what are we going to see in this movie, and what's going to be presented to us when we see this?
I'm so proud of this movie because something that was really important to Laura and myself was while it's really important to talk about the problem, we really need some go-to items of how do we address it and how do we fix it. And, with kids that are suffering so much, it really goes to here are some things that you can do right away. And as an adult, being a part of this project, I've learned so many things to regulate my own anxiety. I lost my dad, my hero, a year ago, and I would say, that was the hardest year of my life, bar none. And I would say right now, mentally, I'm in the strongest moment I've been probably ever in my life because of being associated with people who are giving me the right advice. I sought these people out, and my foundation is this. While I still have challenges, not saying it's perfect,
Mm-hmm.
but for me, the things that I learned in the film and being exposed to these incredible people have led me to have the strongest foundation of my life.
So, how is this portrayed? In other words, um, we can all talk about like where we see the anxiety in the world, whether it's worrying about Ukraine and Russia, whether it's worrying about COVID and variants of that virus, whether it's the anxiety that's created when we compare ourselves to others on social media, or maybe the pressures of being number one at work, or being. I think it's so critical. Like we all want to be everything to everyone. You know what I mean? We want to be the best
Exactly.
parent, the best spouse, the best athlete, the best looking, the smartest, and all of these are unrealistic goals. And yet they create so much anxiety within us all. I mean, I can tell you that when I went through the situation with my friend that we talked about in the beginning, I was one of the first on the scene. And I can
Oh,
tell you that
sorry.
I completely numbed out. I mean, I just felt nothing. And it was really scary that I felt nothing. And so I was in a place where it was starting to pop up at work. I was getting angry at people and stuff like that. I noticed that. Now, I was able to have a good cry and release a lot of that. And I feel really much better and peaceful about it, more peaceful about it. But I think that a lot of people have no outlets for their anxiety, or no way to deal with their anxiety,
Or grief.
or grief even. And so do you guys present solutions, or is it just a
So
depiction of the problem?
So no, there are solutions in there. And one of the major takeaways for me that I was like, wow, I can implement that today, and I have, is when you're anxious and you're fidgety, right? And we're all addicted to our phone. We grab our phones and what do? We go to Instagram, we start scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and getting stimulated and stimulated and stimulated. But part of anxiousness can be because we're overstimulated. We're hitting ourselves with too many things all at once, and it's
Mm.
causing a sort of an overload. And I realized, yeah, that's probably something I'm taking part in. That's probably something I'm taking part in. And that can be, instead of, grabbing my phone, I can work on, okay, I'm going to do 7 minutes of a meditation while I wait for this appointment. I'm going to just sit here and I'm going to do my box breathing, big, deep breaths. And it sounds silly, right? Well, that's not going to really help me. Well, I don't know. I implemented these things And like I said, it's brick by brick by brick by brick. And all of a sudden, you are sitting on a really solid foundation where you do have the energy. And the more energy you have, the more energy you have to help yourself. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what it's really about for me, for my anxiety. When I have anxiety, like I said at the start, you're this frozen bunny. You're this frozen bunny and the fox is coming and you're sort of like, and you're frozen and you don't know how to help yourself. So Anxious Nation was a dream of Laura's and my support of wanting a community that can help you. 2 clicks. You have the energy for 2 clicks on your computer when you're super anxious. And we wanted someone to go click, anxiousnation.com. And there you are. You have your community. You have your trusted resources. We know how you're feeling because we feel it too. And we are here to talk about it and to come up with some great solutions. So there's several things in the movie that you'll take away from. For you, anger is under grief. Sometimes people can have actually rage if they don't, or whether they're dealing with their grief or they're not dealing with their grief. Right. Anger is a part of it. So to be able to identify when you're feeling that emotions, you know what, this is part of the process.
Right.
I'm angry.
Right.
I'm human.
Well, there's so many different ways to deal with anxiety and depression and things. You can suppress it. You can overreact. You can retreat. I have a tendency to go harder into my work, harder into exercise, harder into my spirituality and things like that. But we have to just give ourselves a break once in a while, don't we? We just have to
give yourself a break and, give yourself time for it. Time to say, you know what, from whatever time it is, from 7:00 until 7:30, I'm going to really sit with my friend and I'm going to have conversations with him about our life together.
Right.
The joys, the excitements. Hey, do you remember when this happened? Do you remember when that happened? I miss you. Yeah. I'm struggling without you. Yeah. What could I have done? Those types of conversations, and give that over to yourself and to him to meditate and be in that space. It's okay to feel from A to Z, all of those emotions.
Right. It's writing out our fears and our anxieties is God, I think it's part of the 12 steps of, these 12-step programs where you actually list your fears. And then you go a next level down and you go, well, why am I afraid of that? You know what I mean? And so there's so many ways to deal with anxiety, I think, and depression and these different things. But so many people don't deal with it. And instead they just stay in that spin cycle of, I don't want to use the term negativity, Holly, but I don't think some people realize they can change if they put the work into themselves.
I know, and you can. Oh my God, I feel so good. I feel so good. And then you don't want to do the things that are harmful for you. You don't stay up droning on watching some sort of, series that you're addicted to because you're escaping your life, because you realize it is so important to get my sleep. It is the foundation for this. And then when this happened last night, hey, you want another margarita? No, I don't, because I want to sleep. I want to wake up early. I want to have time meditating and being with my dad. I want to go exercise. I want a cold plunge, which I'm super addicted to.
Okay, wait a minute. Don't stop there just for a second. Because have you bought a cold plunge for your house?
So I live at 35 Hudson Yards in Manhattan, and they have a cold plunge on outside, which is 38 degrees. They have a cold plunge inside, which is 55 degrees. And yes, to answer your question, I have one arriving this weekend, and I'm super addicted to it.
It's so great, yeah.
But the being in this community with Anxious Nation and having these bricks, like I said, now I have more energy to help myself. Before I was struggling, like I couldn't dig myself out of my grief because I didn't have I would come up, I'd put my mask on. I'm really good. I'm a really good caretaker.
Yeah,
Everyone
exactly.
thought that I was, oh my God, you're doing so well with your grief. Great. Great. Well, I'm here to take care of you. I'm here to sell your apartment. And my team was number 2 nationwide last year. I know how to do that. What I didn't know how to do is help myself. And thank God I had gotten involved with this project, An Anxious Nation, because in the middle of my darkest grief, there was somebody with this advice saying, stop overstimulating yourself. And here are some resources, Child Mind, and here are some resources and some amazing doctors near you that you should go to. And brick by brick by brick by brick, the shades lifted, the light came in, and I had the energy then to go and help myself even further, right? And figure out, wow, cold plunging is a game changer. Now I do it twice a day.
Well, Wim Hof, who really brought cold plunges to the forefront, he was going through major anxiety after his wife's death. I don't know if you know that.
Committed suicide out the window. She had schizophrenia.
Right, exactly.
So she jumped out the window. He had 4 kids, not in a financially supportive state.
Yep.
And that's how he found his way. He found it because he was desperate. And can you imagine the anxiety he had? And that was
tremendous anxiety. And
he's like, that was my woman. That was my woman.
I know it. And so here he is. I guess he was walking through the forest in the middle of winter, and he saw this cold pond, and he just jumped into it, and it changed his life.
I know. Thank God.
I know. That's how it happened.
God. I went to ice camp in February again because I sort of, started following someone, Jesse Itzler.
Oh, sure.
And he was interesting to me because he had lost his father and he lost his sister just last year. And he was, still functioning. And yes, there could have been a mask, but I thought that person is still really productive. And I know he's in a lot of pain. What is he doing? How is he coping? And I started looking at him, and then I said, I'm gonna go join this person at ice camp and see what's going on there. And I'm like, this is really helpful. This is tremendously helpful. So, you that was part of building up my foundation.
So Holly, we mentioned like some, obviously having friends, talking to friends, having support groups, maybe therapy, cold plunges, exercise, all these things are really, really good. Turning off social media once in a while, getting plenty of sleep. These are all things that are going to help us a lot deal with anxiety. Is there anything you do spiritually?
Well, spiritually for me is definitely, talking to God, talking to my dad, being out in nature. I feel the closest to God when I am outside and looking at all of these things. So, basically what I call in the book, turning my own lights on. What fills my tank, right? My tank is anything to do with water, being by a river and watching the water rush through and looking in the water and seeing all, whatever it is, a frog, a crayfish, any kind of animals out in nature, that connects me. So just giving yourself time to do that. And then, meditating near water is fills my tank. And also, here's the other thing that was so helpful from the movie. Oh, this is so helpful. So, how sugar feeds cancer? Cancer eats on sugar, right?
Yes.
Oxygen will counteract that and keeping sugar out of your diet. Well, isolation, anxiety feeds on isolation.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. Yeah.
And what I did when I had my grief, well, I didn't want
Yeah.
anybody to know. I'm not used to being the wounded one. I'm not used to being the super vulnerable one. I'm the caretaker. That's who I am. So I withdrew and really hid out by myself to a massive degree when I wasn't caretaking, and that
Mm,
was feeding the grief and the anxiety. It was not
interesting.
helping me.
Interesting. So let me ask you, I was just thinking, you use the term like take off our masks a lot. And is there a time to wear a mask?
Well, listen, you're a professional, so that's not the time
Right.
to, that's not your time. Why are people hiring
Right.
us? Because we are representing their best interest.
Right.
So, yeah, I would say that's the time to put on your mask. It's not about us.
Right.
It's about
Right.
working hard on behalf of somebody else. So, when's the time to take off that mask? Well,
Exactly.
in a safe community
Right.
with a safe friend. I
Yeah.
have a group of I have a girl chat and a close group of friends, and I don't know how we kind of came to know. There was 3 of us out of 12 girls on this chat that kind of came together and said, I'm really suffering from anxiety too. And so the 3 of it, it was almost like this Me Too moment. I'm
Mhm.
suffering and I'm suffering. Well, let's have our own chat and talk about what's working. And the
Mhm.
really cool part about these last several months is I've been able to share what I learned through the movie and the contacts in this community with them. And we are collectively all healing together. And it's been a beautiful, beautiful thing
Mhm.
to be able to take off, and they are
Right.
gorgeous. They are so outgoing. They are
Mhm.
caretakers like me.
Mhm.
I never knew that they had been suffering from it. Like
Right.
your friend.
Right.
I was like, really? You guys? I
Well,
never
let's get on. Well, let's be really honest. We're all suffering at some level. There's nobody that's not. I mean, life is hard. Let's just call it what it is. This is the core truth. Life is hard. We're not, skipping through daisies all day long. And so once we come to that realization and we can accept that, then we can really move on. When I think about, the kids, what they're going through, the population we aren't talking about is a really huge part of our population, which is the aging, and they're really struggling with mortality. They're struggling with not being as pretty as they were. They're struggling with maybe not being as sharp as they were, and they're
Oh,
seeing their demise, and they realize the end is coming for the very first time, because up until a certain point you think you're immortal,
right.
and then all of a sudden you hit a certain age and it's like, whoa, I'm not immortal.
Well,
And so people are injecting themselves with stuff. They're trying everything they can to kind of like defeat this aging process. And yet it has to be anxiety provoking, because they want to play at the levels they did, or they want to continue on with what they're doing. And the struggle's real. So whether you're there or in that midlife crisis, or as a young, child, anxiety permeates I think every demographic of our society. And I want to just include everybody into this. Not like we all need to be anxious, but we don't have to be anxious either if we know how to deal with it.
we don't, well, and it's just a part of the human condition, as you're saying, right?
Yeah.
But there was a campaign, I don't know who started it, but they're crazy, they're nuts, they're a head case. Think of all those words.
Yeah.
And then sort of this secrecy around anything to do with the head.
Right.
Anything to do with the head.
Right.
You will talk about cancer, or lupus, or whatever disease very freely, but anything mental is, well, that's private.
Hmm.
That's shame. That's shame. And then how can you heal if you can't even talk and share? If between very best friends, which I just uncovered,
Mm-hmm.
right? You just uncovered,
Mm-hmm.
it took a lot for them to come out and for me to come out and be like, yeah, okay, this is a hard moment for me, this grief.
Mm-hmm.
This is the hardest moment of my life. And luckily we got to get to that moment. And luckily I got the help that I needed. And these people came into my life. Anxious Nation came into my life for a reason. And I am so excited to be able to be a part of a community coming together where it's natural to talk about, I am having a hard time with anxiety, with depression. I have suicidal thoughts, and have someone say, me too.
Yeah.
And here's some things that we can do to counteract that. But you're not alone. In fact, it's more normal than not. Maybe not normal is not feeling these things.
Right.
Because you're under so much, what you were saying, you went so numb stuffing it and throwing yourself into work or distracting yourself from yourself.
100%.
You're not connected to your property, right? You're not connected to your own property. You're just slamming yourself, overstimulating yourself, overworking yourself, tiring yourself out to distract yourself from your connection. And how are you ever going to turn on your lights?
Well, you know, it's funny. I was one last personal anxiety moment, which was, you know, most people know that I'm 38 years sober, and at 9 years sobriety, it was like up until that, my first 9 years was like a pink cloud, as they call it. And it was just, life was just blossoming for me because I was free from alcohol and drugs and I was just living this amazing life. And then at 9 years, it was like the proverbial shoe was going to drop. You know what I mean? It was just so weird. I just had this fear and it just created anxiety that the shoe was going to drop. And I don't even know what shoe, but it was going to drop. And I literally went into a period of 9 years of insomnia.
Wow.
And it was and I was fine during the day when I felt in control. But boy, as soon as I hit the pillow at night, I would just lie in bed completely anxious because I couldn't call people because everybody's sleeping. I couldn't work on the issues or anything, you know what I mean? And it was very, very painful. But it was through really doing some work on myself and turning it over to God and all these different things that I was able to release that anxiety. So now I sleep like a baby. And it's interesting.
How long did that go on?
It went on for 9 years.
At 9 years,
I just had a breakthrough.
It kicked you in.
Yeah.
So you went to year 18.
No. It was the whole adventure. Yeah, that was it. And so, but it can just show up so unexpectedly and in so many ways and forms. And like you say, we can't hold this in. Unfortunately, I didn't. I did share it with my close friends and stuff like that. But I really fear for the people that don't do that. And so if anybody listening to this is going through any kind of an anxiety or anything like that, please reach out to someone. Don't you think? I mean,
Holly, the connection, right? Yeah. The connection, we're pack animals.
Right.
We're pack animals. And that's what I learned, from the movie going, yeah, I'm isolating and it is getting worse.
Right.
And I do need to reach out to other people for a coffee, for a walk, for a dinner. And I, as I did that and implemented all of these things together, it lifted, it lessened.
Right. That's right. So the movie's coming out.
Yes,
I get to see it Friday. I know Laura's been listening to us. I've been seeing her comments. Thank you, Laura, for the invitation to go see it. My wife and I are definitely going, so we'll see you there. And it's at the Lamel Theater, right? Friday night. Where else is it playing, and how can people see it?
Well, it's also playing at the Angelica Theater in New York, starting tomorrow, and we'll go through May 11th. You can always go to anxiousnation.com and download it from there, and stay tuned because there's going to be a lot of upcoming information there and community outreach where we want to be everything anxiety. We want to be the community where people can come and feel supported.
Well, thank you so much. So much, Holly, for being on this with me. And thank you for writing your book, Back on the Market. Thank you for producing this film, Anxious Nation.
Back on the market.
And congratulations on all your success selling real estate. If anybody wants to buy a house in New York or a beautiful apartment, please call Holly. She will help you. And I just really grateful that I even know you, Holly. So thank you so
Oh,
much.
Peter, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Loved being here.
All right.
Okay, take care.